regular scheduled meeting of the Greensburg Planning Commission is called to order. Comply with Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. The city requests that participants in this meeting complete a voluntary anonymous survey that is available on the table at the back of the room. At this time, I'd like to ask everybody to silence any electronic devices and we'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
John, please, roll call, please.
Roy?
Present.
Amy?
Here.
Steve?
Present.
Kevin?
Here.
Tom?
Here.
Mark?
Here.
Already had you marked out. Phil?
Here. Thank you. All right, you all have the minutes in front of you from the 9/17 meeting. Just take a few moments to look at those, see if there's any additions or corrections. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes? Gentlemen, have any additions or corrections to the minutes? Having heard none, approved as submitted. New business. ONRA LLC, 6910 North Shadeland Avenue, new site plan for the old Waffle House building.
You wanna go ahead, Bill?
Oh, wow, look at it. It's easier following.
It's touchy tonight. Mr. Bill Niemeyer, representing ONRA, is present. A few months ago, they came before the board asking for a site plan. And at the time, the original site plan was for one building with a drive-through restaurant, so to say. Nevertheless, that plan had changed as they were before us a couple months ago, requesting that the lot be split for 2 restaurants for the site. Since then, the second restaurant has pulled out, so they would like to go back to square one with the one building, one site, one lot. So if you, one building with possibly 3 to 4 units, with the restaurant being on the north end with the drive-through. I think the second page shows the site plan of the restaurant or the overall building. The entrance would not change. It'd be the same as it was before. The drive-through is still on the east side, going up to the north side, and then coming back around, going southbound to the exit. The drainage plan, same as it was in the original. Nothing has changed, just back to the original plan that they first presented. So basically they're back to square one of the site that they first came before this board with.
Kathy, when you say the entrance is going to remain unchanged, is that from the plan? It will be changed?
It will be changed from what's there now. The existing site has 2 entrances, one on the west side close to the bypass and the other one on the east end close to Verizon. They're doing away with the first entrance closest to the bypass, widening the second one so it'll have in and out, turn lanes, etc. And I believe they have all their NDOT approvals. I received today actually from the State Fire and Building Services their CDR, construction design release for their foundation already, so they're ready to go with your blessing.
Just as an additional point, the drainage plan that was submitted for the first version, so everybody knows it was an accepted drainage plan to the city. So it meets all the city requirements. Do any members have any questions, Kathy? Is there anybody from the audience who'd like to speak to this petition?
I have a question.
Please approach the podium. State your name for the record.
Tom Fleming. I just wanted to ask, is there still gonna be when you had it divided up, there was gonna be some right-of-way come to the city? Is that still gonna be the case?
Yes.
Okay, that's all I need to know.
Thank you, Tom.
Bill Niemeyer for ONRA LLC. And yes, the clarification, the one entrance closest, the western entrance will be closed. We're back to the original site plan. And I certainly want to apologize to Kathy because, you know, it's just fortunate she didn't start pulling her hair out as this thing kept changing. And I believe that we're at the final point. The building's coming down. We're ready to start building as soon as weather allows, and we can't wait to get an upscale coffee store up and running.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
Board members have any additional questions, comments? Having heard none, I accept the motion to forward this site plan to council with a favorable recommendation.
So moved. Second.
Jamie made it.
I seconded it.
Lori seconded. John, just take the roll call, please.
Roy,
Yes.
Jamie,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Kevin,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Phil.
Yes.
There you go, move the council with favorable recommendation.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, and good luck with your building.
Thank you.
All right, next thing on the agenda, zoning ordinance amendment.
Big stick. Thank you.
On the agenda, you'll see that there is an ordinance amending the zoning ordinance 2014-17, 1999-15, 2013-01, and 2015-11. A couple of months ago, the Board of Zoning Appeals made a request that we look into our zoning ordinance regarding signage and setbacks. Due to the overabundance of requests for variances regarding signage, and for the most part, our anytime you look in our zoning sections, for example, like R2, and that's basically home-based occupations, R3, R4, B1, B2, B3, I1. Under special exceptions, it reads signage. So what we would like to do is take that section of where it indicates that a permitted exception is signage, and when it says see section 155.065 through 155.082, that's the whole sign ordinance. So basically, anytime anyone would come in for a sign permit, they really should come before the Board of Zoning Appeals to get a variance. We like to do away with that, move that up to permitted uses instead of permitted exceptions. That way, you can put a sign up without having to get a variance every single time. Also, you know, as long as they can abide by the sign ordinance, then that's fine. But if, you know, if they're over the square footage, encroaching on the property line, then they would need a variance. Same with the older lots in town. Basically what this does, I did a survey of surrounding cities, found some places where basically if the lot size was in the older part of town and it was approved years ago, of course, by, you know, the governing body, then as long as they can meet the setback requirements, and the square footage that we have for that zoning, then as long as they could meet all the setback requirements, then our office could approve that permit. If they could not meet the setback requirements, then they would have to get the variance. So that's kind of that in a nutshell. The other, I think, change that I have is the A1. And that was done a few years ago, I think in 2014. Does anyone recall why that was added in? We don't have any A1, so.
Well, but I thought we added that in, to take in the few areas where we got some crops that actually grow in town.
Well, but under our.
Like over by Newton's
Right,
old building.
but under our vegetation ordinance, it allows that.
Okay, well, maybe we didn't I don't know, we may not, but that was, I'm pretty, almost positive that was our thought, was we were trying to take care of those areas.
Even with the zoning classification, there's no A1 district anywhere in
Okay,
the
so
city.
Right.
Okay, I think that was what from what I remember, that was the idea behind that.
And even when you annex, according to the Indiana code, you do the zoning at the same time. It's a recommendation that comes from this board to the city council. So basically, anymore, it's best to do voluntary annexation rather than involuntary. But nevertheless, that petitioner would request that zoning at the time, and it would come basically from this board as your blessing to go forward to the city council. So it's all done at one time.
I
Yeah.
think that's what they were trying to take, I think that's what we were trying to take care of back then,
Back
from what I
then.
remember.
Because this is pretty broad. It's a pretty broad area, allowing a lot of things that's allowed in our B2 district. So, and like, Ron indicated, we don't have any areas of A1. So, that was another thought that was brought to my attention. So the committee is making the recommendation to take that section out, just to go ahead and repeal that one. And then, I think last but not least, there was one little snippet that was added in the sign ordinance about entryway features. So it could be a business park, it could be a subdivision, an industrial area. They all have the nice, Westridge subdivision, Millridge. I can't recall if Commerce Park, one of them might have a sign. Anyway, the entryway features says it'll be regulated by and approved by as a design feature of a subdivision shall be exempt from the sign standards in the Unified Development Ordinance. We do not have a Unified Development Ordinance. So that got slipped in there by accident. So we're just trying to twist that around a little bit. And it should now read, an entryway feature regulated by and approved from the Plan Commission as a design feature of a subdivision shall be exempt from the sign standards, period. It just eliminates the Unified Development Ordinance, in which we do not have one. And I take that back, I do have one other little thing that we added. The sign ordinance also does not have setbacks for signage. Again, I did a survey of surrounding communities: Columbus, Shelbyville, Rushville, Batesville, North Vernon, Seymour. Most of them have a 5-foot setback. So the setback being a ground sign, a pole sign, I took it from the overhang. Not from the pole, but from the overhang. Sometimes that overhang, if you had a 5-foot setback, the overhang could go into the right of way. So this way it gives them plenty of clearance.
I have one question. like in like your downtown area. I know that's different, because, let's say along Main Street or Lincoln Street, what, on that overhang, is the sidewalk the property line?
A lot of cases behind the sidewalk.
There's an ambiguous kind of situation there on what's the
Well,
property.
they would have to know where the property line is located at. 75% of the time, and I'm probably off on my percentage, but the property line is located right behind the sidewalk.
Well, I know a lot of people on their property, their survey doesn't show it that way. You know, it should.
True. And there is some locations where there's not a sidewalk, so they'd have to have adequate location of where their property lines are located at. So either a survey, or if they have an existing site plan that would show that. So we'd have to, or the right of way. A lot of times, if you know the right of way, for the most part, you go out to the center of the street, measure back half of the right of way, and that gives you an approximate location of your property line. Not always, but it's pretty close.
Well, then, if that's the case, how's come the property owner has to replace the sidewalk?
That's not my area. Can't answer that.
Well, I know that on a lot of the surveys, it doesn't show, it shows the property line standing out further.
Some areas it does. Sometimes you go down Broadway Street and the property line is the front porch of someone's house in the older parts of town, because it was done by chains and links. So it's just, they used to use their thumb and everything was okay, but it's just a matter of location. So what I'm asking for is basically your blessing to go ahead and present this to City Council with the basic changes.
Have any other questions of Kathy? Anybody in the audience wish to speak to the changes discussed in this ordinance? Having heard none, I accept the motion to approve this ordinance and forward to City Council with a favorable recommendation.
So moved.
I'll second.
Roy made it, Steve seconded it. Is that right?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Kevin?
Yes.
Steve? Yes. Amy?
Yes.
Roy?
Yes.
Any old business?